Well, it's not quite fall yet. It's I forget which day. It's like September 13th or something, I think. And there's a storm moving off the coast. Maybe it's September 14th. And there's the storm that's not going to hit us, but it's creating this wind, and it's really nice because it's cooling things off. And this northeast wind right now is very pleasant. We've had some hot days, but you know, storms, even this storm, even though it's not going to hit us directly, it still impacts people even here, just depending on what kind of business you're in. You know, possibly people saw the storm coming and they may have changed their vacation plans. So if you're in the vacation rental business or something like that, it might have changed things. If you're a fisherman, of course, it changes things. You might have to, you know, plan to not fish, or to take up some of your equipment or whatever you might have to do, or tie something down. So storms come in all different shapes and sizes, and you know, they can be anything from a inconvenience to a disaster. But the storm, like we have as a weather event, is also a great analogy to what the other types of storms that we also associate with life changes. So we have like economic storms, we have family crisis, that's like a storm. A lot of times we just look at our lives as going through different seasons, and within those seasons there's unpredictable things or out of the norm things that create a storm. But in all cases, the reason we use that analogy is because in every case there's a lot of parallels, and there's going to be things with storms that are going to be kind of unpredictable and you know, and out of our control, so to speak. But much of what happens with a storm and how it impacts us has a lot to do with how we prepare for storms even before we ever have one. So here on the Outer Banks, before there was really good weather information, storms hit and nobody even knew they were coming. So in an environment like that, which is a lot like life environments, you have to be prepared, especially be prepared without having any idea if a storm is coming. You just have to have a certain level of preparedness. And in life, a lot of that is preparing yourself mentally and physically. So learning to be your own person, and that's a tricky thing because a lot of the people and things that will take your identity from you are things that you don't even realize they're doing that. So you have to make a conscious effort to reevaluate where you're at, to practice being mindful, to be able to think for yourself, and to tell yourself, I am me. And you have to actually say that, and I am me. And you have to care about other people, and you will gain more independence by being able to care for other people, but caring for yourself at the same time. So and then start to understand your own position, and not to be swayed by other people to go do things that are not part of the plan that you've set for yourself. And you make sure that you're taking care of your main goals, your main objectives first before you go off and, you know, do things that are not you know, that are, in other words, if you prepare the right way for things, you'll actually give yourself more opportunity to do the fun stuff too. So the fun stuff will be funner, but you should also have a great enjoyment in living life in all aspects of it. There's, you know, for some reason society wants to make certain parts of life seem difficult or hard. And I'm not so sure if that's just not a sales pitch, to try and distract you to do other things, because I can only imagine back at some point in time in history that was there was mostly a way that a person expected to live their lives, and they certainly must have had appreciation for life. So why now would certain things that we do seem to be not fun or not enjoyable? Happiness doesn't have to mean fun like all the time, like going to a amusement park type of fun, but just enjoying and appreciating the journey of life. And the more you prepare, you save the right amount, you invest the right amount, you learn things before you take risk in them, so that you have some knowledge, take an appropriate amount at risk in things, and keep other things like gambling to almost zero. Keep it to zero, or such a small percentage of anything that you have that it won't impact everything else. So, saving, investing, and then a little bit of risk taking once you know something about something. And then it's really not a risk. But what I'm saying is, like, if you learn a skill or something, and you want to start a business, you want to build up a knowledge base, by either training or reading, educating yourself, learning, working for somebody else in that field. Then when you decide to put your own money into your own venture, or somebody else that you know really well and believe can do the job, and other things too. It's not just, I'm just using that as one example. Then you're ready for that. So, there's saving, investing, appropriate level of risk taking. That person was going way too fast. And they slowed down as they saw me. And then there's things like gambling, and you just avoid that altogether, except for where it's very, very small amounts, just for a little bit of fun, if that's what you think is fun. But it's got to be like way less than 1% of everything else that you have. And so I love you, and prepare for the storms.